Alright, so we're going to take this lady and make her shorter in the front, a little bit longer in the back. Give her some volume on top, some layering. We're going to keep the length that she has right now, but we'll show you how to move from shorter in the front to longer in the back. Alright, so let's comb it back, finding its natural part. Just push it forward, let it part where it naturally falls. Make sure the client is good with that part. Then we're going to section your two front panels away, so top of the crown to just behind the ear. Clip those two sides away. Then we're going to go down the middle of the back. And our first section in the back is going to be about 2 inches thick because we are going to leave the length. So we'll start with vertical graduation right in the middle of that section. So you're going to pull it down to a 45. We're going to let about 1 inch of the bottom fall out. And then we are not over directing, so just pull your section straight out from where it falls, keeping your fingers in the same angle. And then you can cross check on the top. Now on the other side, remember your finger position changes, so you can use the previous section as your guide. And just pull straight out from where it falls. And we're not over directing, so it will be a rounded shape as opposed to a square or angular shape. And then always check for balance on both sides. And you can see your graduation starting. Now your next section is going to be about 1 inch to 1.5 inches, whatever your fingers can hold on to. And you're continuing with your graduation. Your guide will be underneath. And make sure your fingers are following the same angle. And you're going to be cutting off more hair as you move forward, since we are going shorter in the front now, so you will have a rounded shape in the corner, since it will be following the hairline around the ear. Now we can move to the other side, and we're continuing with the same thing. Continue with your vertical sections, graduating. Make sure you're not over directing. You just really want to focus on your fingers being in the same angle on both sides. So again, it's following the hairline. You can see it's rounded. So we're going to continue the graduation in this next section. So we're right at the round of the head. So the lower you hold it, the heavier your weight line is going to be. The higher up you hold it, the lighter and softer your weight line will be. So we're almost close to a 90, but not quite. Now we're moving to the other side, taking the same size section. Again, we're right at the round of the head. So you're going to continue your graduation. And just remember to keep your fingers in the same position you had on the other side. You're at a 45, but you're in between a 45 and a 90. Don't mind me, I just dropped my comb. So you can see it's vertical sections, no over direction. Hi, Evelyn. So you can see when you comb it down that it's following the hairline, which is exactly what we want. So check for balance on both sides, because now we're right behind the ear. And with each section, your line changes as it goes up, so that's why you want to check for balance. Now we're going to move to the top of the head, which is above the round of the head, so this is where the layering happens. So we're going to take a section right down the middle, and our finger position changes, so now we're going to go square. So holding it over the top is easier. And we're just going to move around the head, taking pie-shaped sections. You want to make sure you keep the crown piece in your hand, otherwise you can end up cutting the lower part too short. So you can see the bottom is your guide, and then your previous section is your guide. And again, we're not over directing, we're just pulling everything straight out from where it lays. Now you're going to do the same thing on the other side. So we're cutting the square, standing over the top. I usually don't like standing that way because I don't want my armpit in their face. So I prefer if you stand in the back. We're just doing this for class purposes. But you can see you move around the head, so your body should move when you're not over directing. This is the side again that we were just doing from a different angle. And you can see your graduation, it's very soft. And it's rounded as you move towards the ear. So now we're going to take about a 2-inch section on the side, take a horizontal section, and we're going to cut vertically. So we're going to follow the hairline. So again, we're not over directing. So the line on the bottom is going to follow the shape of the hairline, so it will round up. And we're going to cut square. So we're pulling everything straight out, and use your back previous section as your guide. And here we are cutting our length off, so don't use the bottom as your guide, since it is getting shorter towards the front. Make sure your sections are small enough that you can see your guide so you don't get lost. So you can see that shape on the bottom goes up around the ear and then gets longer in the front, which is what the hairline does. Alright, you're going to take another section about an inch thick, moving up the side of the head. And we're going to continue with square layers. So again, take a vertical section. Your previous section underneath will be your guide. Make sure you're pulling everything straight out from the head, not over directing until you get to the front. So once you hit the point of recession, you do want to make sure that you over direct, because again, when you're not over directing, the whole outside line perimeter follows the shape of the hairline, so your point of recession will cause there to be a hole. So if you don't want the bangs shorter, then you will over direct that part. So again, we're continuing square layers all the way through the side. You can see I'm right at that point of recession. So that is her whole bang area. So now we're going to do round layers, and this is on the side where the part is heavier. So pull it straight out from the head and round that top section. This is going to cause it to lay a little softer and not so heavy. And the more textured and tousled you want it to be, the shorter you can make this top layer. So if you wanted it even lighter, you could do a square layer on top instead of round. So even the bangs we're pulling straight up and rounding. You can just leave the bangs for right now. We'll go back and fine-tune them after the length. So now we're going to move to the other side, and again take a 2-inch section to start with. And we're going to do vertical square layers. Using your previous section in the back as your guide. And if you take nice, small, clean, neat sections, you should always be able to see your guide and not get lost in the haircut. So then we want to check for balance on both sides. Make sure we're the same. This side's a little bit longer, so I'm going to go back. My finger position could have been slightly different. So now take another inch section. Again, you'll notice we're right at the round of the head, so we're continuing our square layers. Remember, layers happen above the round of the head. but this is the side that she's going to part her hair on. So we're just continuing square layers all the way through this section. And you can see she can tuck it behind her ear, gives her that nice round shape.
I'm so sorry.
So on this top section, we are not going to do round layers. We are just going to continue with the square. And we're going to over direct slightly in the point of recession so we don't get a big hole. So then you can check. You'll have a point in the front. Usually we don't want it quite that long, so you can go back and point cut into it, and we'll do that on both sides. Now we're going to work on the bang area. So we're going to take a slight U-shaped section, and we want to angle them shorter to longer. Right now they're the opposite, so pull them straight out, and you can point cut. I like to point cut bangs instead of cutting blunt because it just makes them softer looking. Then you can take another section. Just make sure you're elevating, so the more you elevate the hair, the softer it'll be when it falls down. The closer you hold it to where it falls, the heavier it's going to be. So then we're going to take a vertical section across the top and connect the bangs into the rest of it. So we can point cut into this, and you can see I'm pulling it towards the front so that it stays slightly longer in the back. And we're just point cutting to make the ends softer, not necessarily taking off a whole lot of length. And then you want to do the same thing on the other side. Typically with this haircut, people won't have a specific part. It'll just fall wherever, so you can pull it together across the part to make sure that it connects. And now we're going to connect the front all the way to the back, right where that part is. And you can see it's slightly longer right there. So again, we're just softening the ends to point cut and just checking to make sure everything connects from front to back. And just because you pull it up to check it doesn't mean you have to cut something, so keep that in mind. All right, now we're going to blow dry. Here is our blow dried, we'll call it deconstructed bob. So you can see it's rounded at the bottom.
A big C.
A big C. You can see the weight line in the middle, but it's not really heavy. It's softer since we layered on top of it. So now we're going to use our razor and lighten it up. So I like to go underneath so that you don't necessarily see where the razor is. Twist it, use the point of your razor, just razor through it. It just softens the ends so they're not so bulky. And this does work best on thicker hair. I wouldn't do it on finer hair, but it's just one way that you can texturize. It's not the only way. You can also go in the middle if you want to take out some more weight and not necessarily texture the ends. You can just use the point of your razor, go in and take out whatever you feel is necessary. Or you always stop and look at it, feel it. We can also use our texturizing scissors So the texturizing scissors are a little bit of a softer texture, and you can point cut into it. And I like to cut a couple times. Takes out a little bit more. You can also go into the middle with these to take weight out. And then you can point cut on the ends, around the edge also. That helps to soften the ends. So this is all visual cutting, and really this is what makes your haircut more expensive, I believe, is all of your fine tuning and how you teach the client to blow dry and style to make it look that way also. Because you know if it gets blow dried a different way, it's not going to look quite as good. And you can push it around, mess it up, change the part. You can also razor through the end. So I'm just showing different ways to texture. So these bangs are a little heavy, so I'm going to go in and point cut with my shears to soften, so you can just see through them a little bit more. And point cutting through the weight line. Just trying to make it a little more tousled and textured looking. And we're going to use bedroom hair to give it some texture and some volume and make it a little more piecey and separated looking to show off the shape. And there we go. Beautiful deconstructed bob. A little shorter in the front, longer in the back, longer bang. Beautiful.
She loves it. She's so happy. Look how happy she is.
So we did graduation in the back, square at the round of the head through both sides, and then we did round layers on the heavier part side. And there you go.